The rain was coming down in sheets that Tuesday evening, the kind of rain that makes you want to stay inside with a hot cup of coffee and forget the world exists. But for Lily Chen, there was no such luxury. Her shift at Betty's diner had just ended, and she still had to catch the last bus home. Her feet were killing her. She'd been on them for nearly 10 hours straight, running between tables, taking orders, refilling coffee cups, and forcing smiles even when customers were rude or left terrible tips. She pushed open the diner's door and felt the cold November wind hit her face. The small awning over the entrance provided almost no shelter. Lily pulled her thin jacket tighter around her body and opened her umbrella, one of those cheap ones from the dollar store that threatened to flip inside out with every gust of wind. It was barely holding together, but it was all she had. As she was about to step into the rain, something caught her eye. An older man was standing about 20 feet away, right in the middle of the downpour. He wasn't running for cover or holding anything over his head. He was just standing there, completely soaked, water dripping from his gray hair and down his face. His suit looked expensive once, but now it was plastered to his thin frame. He looked confused, like he didn't quite know where he was or what he should do next. Lily hesitated. She really needed to catch that bus. If she missed it, there wouldn't be another one for 2 hours, and she'd promised her mother she'd be home to give her the evening medication. Her mom had been sick for months now, and the medical bills were piling up faster than Lily could count. Every minute of overtime, every extra shift mattered. She couldn't afford to be late. But looking at the old man standing in the rain, something twisted in her chest. He reminded her of her own father, who had passed away 3 years ago. That same gentle confusion in his eyes, that same lost expression. "Hey," she called out, stepping toward him. "Sir, are you okay?" The man turned to look at her, water streaming down his face. He blinked several times as if trying to focus. I'm not sure where I am," he said, his voice barely audible over the sound of the rain. Lily's heart sank. She glanced at her watch. 15 minutes until the last bus. The bus stop was only 5 minutes away if she walked fast. But this man clearly needed help. "Do you live around here?" she asked, moving closer with her umbrella. It wasn't big enough for 2 people, not really, but she angled it to try to cover both of them. The man looked around, his eyes scanning the street with no recognition. "I was going somewhere," he said slowly. "I need to get to—" "I can't remember." Lily bit her lip. She could call someone, maybe the police, but they might take forever to arrive. And standing out here in this weather, this man could get seriously sick. He was already shivering, his lips starting to turn a worrying shade of blue. "Okay, listen," Lily said, making a decision she knew she might regret. "Where's the nearest place you recognize? A bus stop? A store?" The man shook his head slowly. Then suddenly his eyes lit up just a little. "Bus," he said. "I take the bus sometimes. Number 42, Lily knew that route. It ran through the nicer part of town, up on the hills where the big houses were. That bus stop was 6 blocks away, in the opposite direction from where she needed to go. 6 blocks in this rain with her already soaked shoes and her mother waiting at home. She looked at the man again. He was swaying slightly now, exhausted or cold or both. There really wasn't a choice, was there? "Come on," she said, adjusting the umbrella to cover him more than herself. "I'll walk you to the bus stop." "You don't have to," the man said, but there was relief in his voice, a desperate kind of gratitude. "It's okay," Lily replied, even though it really wasn't. "I can't just leave you here." They started walking, Lily holding the umbrella mostly over the old man, while rain soaked through her jacket and into her shirt. Her feet squelched in her shoes with every step. The man moved slowly, and she had to match his pace. Every minute that passed was another minute closer to missing her bus. "What's your name?" she asked, trying to keep him talking, keep him alert. "Robert," he said after a moment. "Robert Wellington, I think." "Yes, that's right. I'm Lily," she said. "It's nice to meet you, Robert. Even if the weather isn't cooperating." He made a sound that might have been a laugh. "My wife used to say I'd forget my own head if it wasn't attached." She was right, it seems. "Where is your wife now?" Lily asked gently. Robert's face fell. "She's gone. 5 years now. Or is it 6? I can't quite remember." They walked in silence for a while, the rain creating a constant drumming sound on the umbrella. Lily's mind was racing. She was definitely going to miss the bus now. She'd have to call her neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, to check on her mom. Mrs. Patterson was kind, but she was also 80 years old herself and had trouble with stairs. Lily felt the familiar knot of worry tightening in her stomach. "You're very kind," Robert said suddenly. Not many people would stop. Lily shrugged, though he probably couldn't see it in the darkness. "My dad always said we should help people when we can, even when it's not convenient." "Smart man, your father." "He was," Lily agreed, her throat tight. They finally reached the bus stop 6 blocks later. Lily was soaked through completely now, shivering almost as much as Robert had been earlier. But at least they were under the shelter of the bus stop awning. She checked the schedule posted on the wall. The number 42 bus would arrive in about 8 minutes. "Will you be okay from here?" she asked. "Do you know where to get off?" Robert nodded slowly. "Highland Avenue." "I know Highland Avenue. There's someone there who helps me." Lily wasn't entirely convinced, but she didn't know what else to do. She didn't have money for a taxi and her phone was almost dead. At least here he was out of the rain and the bus would be coming soon. "Okay," she said. "You wait right here and don't move until that bus comes, all right?" "Thank you," Robert said, and there were tears in his eyes now, or maybe it was just rainwater. "Thank you so much." Lily felt her own eyes burning. "It's okay. Just stay safe, okay?" She waited with him until she saw the bus approaching in the distance, its headlights cutting through the rain. Only when she saw Robert climb aboard and the bus pull away did she turn and start the long walk home. Her own bus was long gone by now. She'd be walking for at least 45 minutes in the rain. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A text from her mom. Just 3 words, "Are you okay?" Lily typed back with numb fingers. "On my way." "Sorry I'm late." She didn't mention why. She just pulled her soaked jacket tighter and kept walking. Her shoes were completely ruined now probably, and she'd have to pick up extra shifts to replace them. But somehow, despite everything, she didn't regret stopping. Her father would have done the same thing. It was the right thing to do, even when it cost you something. The rain continued to fall as Lily made her way home through the dark streets of Maplewood. With no idea that her simple act of kindness had just changed everything. She was just trying to get home to her mother, not knowing that in 3 days, a man in a suit would walk into the diner and ask for her by name, and nothing in her life would ever be quite the same again. 3 days had passed since that rainy evening, and Lily had almost forgotten about the old man at the bus stop. Almost, but not quite. She found herself thinking about him during quiet moments at the diner, wondering if he'd made it home safely, if someone had been there to help him when he got off the bus. She hoped he was okay. It was Thursday afternoon, the lunch rush just winding down, when everything changed. Lily was wiping down table 6 for what felt like the 100th time that day when Betty, the diner's owner, touched her shoulder. "Lily, honey," Betty said in that voice she used when something was wrong. "There's someone here to see you." Lily's heart dropped into her stomach. The first thought that flashed through her mind was her mother. Something had happened to her mother. She spun around, her cleaning cloth falling to the floor. But it wasn't a doctor or a neighbor standing by the entrance. It was a man in a very expensive suit, holding a leather briefcase. He looked completely out of place in Betty's diner, where most customers wore jeans and flannel shirts. "Are you Lily Chen?" the man asked, stepping forward. "Yes," Lily said slowly, her mind racing through possibilities. Had she done something wrong? Was this about unpaid bills? The medical debt? What's this about? The other waitresses had stopped what they were doing. Jennifer was frozen halfway through pouring coffee. Rita was staring from behind the counter. Even the cook, old Tommy, had poked his head out from the kitchen. Everyone was watching. The man smiled, which somehow made Lily even more nervous. "My name is David Russo. I'm an attorney. Could we perhaps sit down somewhere private?" "We can use the back office," Betty said quickly, already moving toward the small room behind the counter where she did the books. Lily followed them, her hands shaking slightly. The back office was barely big enough for Betty's desk and 2 folding chairs. It smelled like coffee and old receipts. David Russo looked even more out of place here than he had in the main diner. "Am I in trouble?" Lily asked, unable to hold the question back any longer. No, nothing like that," David said quickly, setting his briefcase on the desk. "Actually, quite the opposite. I'm here on behalf of my client, Robert Wellington." The name took a moment to register, and then Lily remembered. "The old man in the rain? Is he okay?" she asked. "I've been worried about him." David's expression softened. "That's actually why I'm here. You see, Robert Wellington is a very wealthy man. He owns Wellington Industries, several properties throughout the state, and has substantial investments. He's also been struggling with early-stage dementia for the past year. Lily felt her stomach twist. She'd suspected something like that, the way he'd seemed so confused. On Tuesday evening, David continued, Robert walked away from his care facility during a shift change. The staff didn't realize he was gone for almost 2 hours. When they did notice, they were frantic. They called me, they called the police. We had people out looking everywhere for him. I didn't know, Lily said quietly. He just seemed lost. He was lost, David said. And it was a very cold night. The temperature dropped to near freezing. If he'd stayed out there much longer, especially soaked through like he was, he could have developed hypothermia. At his age and with his condition, that could have been fatal. The words hung in the air. Fatal. Lily had just been trying to help someone catch a bus. She hadn't realized she might have actually saved his life. The bus driver recognized Robert. David continued. He's a regular on that route when he manages to slip away from the facility. The driver called us and we picked Robert up at the Highland Avenue stop. It took him a while, but eventually he told us about the young woman with the umbrella who walked him 6 blocks in the rain. He was very insistent that we find you and thank you properly. You don't have to thank me, Lily said quickly. I just did what anyone would do. Betty snorted from where she stood by the door. Honey, that's not true and you know it. Most people would have walked right past, David nodded. That's exactly what Robert said. He wanted me to find you and fortunately, he remembered that you worked at Betty's diner. He's been talking about you constantly for the past 3 days. About your kindness, about how you missed your bus to help him, about how you gave him your umbrella. I didn't give him my umbrella, Lily corrected. I just walked him to the bus stop. According to the bus driver's report and the security footage from the bus stop, you held that umbrella over Robert almost the entire walk, while you yourself got soaked, David said gently. That's not nothing, Lily. Lily didn't know what to say to that. She looked down at her hands, at the worn cuticles and the small burn scar from a hot plate 3 months ago. Robert would like to meet with you, David said, to thank you in person. He's asked if you would be willing to visit him at his home on your next day off. I don't know, Lily started to say, but David held up a hand. There's more, he said. Robert is aware that you work very hard here. He asked me to do some quiet research, and I hope you'll forgive the intrusion. But I know about your mother's illness, about the medical bills. Lily felt her face flush hot, then cold. That's private, she said, hearing the edge in her own voice. I know, and I apologize, David said sincerely. But Robert wants to help. He wants to pay off your mother's medical debt. The words didn't make sense at first. Lily heard them, but they seemed to slide right past her understanding, like they were in a foreign language. What? She finally managed. He wants to pay off the medical bills, David repeated. All of them. Consider it his way of saying thank you for saving his life. That's too much, Lily said immediately, standing up so fast her chair nearly tipped over. I can't accept that. I didn't help him because I wanted money. I helped him because he needed help. Robert knows that, David said calmly. That's exactly why he wants to do this. He says you're the first person in years who has been kind to him without wanting something in return. He wants to help you the way you helped him. Lily shook her head. No, I appreciate it, but no. It's too much. Betty put a hand on Lily's arm. Honey, maybe you should at least think about it. Those bills are crushing you. Your mom needs treatment that the insurance won't cover. This could change everything. I can't just take money from a stranger, Lily insisted, even though a part of her, a desperate, tired part, was screaming at her to say yes. Do you know what this could mean? No more double shifts. No more choosing between buying groceries and buying medicine. No more lying awake at night doing math in your head that never quite adds up. At least meet with him, David said. Hear him out. He's a good man, Lily. A little forgetful these days, but his heart is in the right place. And he's quite insistent about this. I think he'll call me every day until you agree to visit. Lily sat back down, her legs suddenly weak. This was all too much, too fast. 3 days ago, she'd just been trying to catch a bus. Now a lawyer was sitting in Betty's back office talking about paying off tens of thousands of dollars in debt. I need to think about it, she said quietly. Of course, David said. He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a business card. This has my direct number and Robert's address. Call me when you're ready, or if you need anything. Robert has also instructed me to ensure you have transportation to and from his home, should you decide to visit. After David left, the diner erupted. Jennifer and Rita crowded into the office, talking over each other. Tommy shouted questions from the kitchen. Everyone wanted to know what had happened. What the fancy lawyer had wanted. "Give the girl some space," Betty finally barked, shooing everyone back to work. But even she looked at Lily with new eyes, a mixture of pride and worry. Lily finished her shift in a daze. She kept the business card in her apron pocket, and every time she reached for her order pad, she felt the sharp edges of the card against her fingers, a reminder that maybe, just maybe, things could be different. That night, after she'd given her mother the evening medication and helped her get comfortable in bed, Lily sat at the kitchen table with a pile of medical bills spread out in front of her. She'd been looking at these numbers for so long they'd stopped seeming real. But now, with David's offer fresh in her mind, they looked different. They looked like chains that could actually be broken. Her mother shuffled into the kitchen in her robe. "You're up late," she said. "Just thinking," Lily replied, "about what that lawyer wanted." Lily looked up, surprised. "How did you know about that?" Her mother smiled weakly. "Rita called me. You know how she loves to gossip." "So what did he want?" Lily told her everything. About Robert Wellington, about the offer to pay the medical bills, about how uncomfortable it made her feel to accept money for just being decent to someone. Her mother listened quietly, then reached across the table to take Lily's hand. "Baby girl, I know you were raised to stand on your own 2 feet. Your father and I taught you that. But sometimes accepting help isn't a weakness. Sometimes it's just the universe balancing things out. You help that man. Let him help you back. But it feels like charity," Lily whispered. "It's not charity," her mother said firmly. "It's gratitude. And there's nothing wrong with that." Lily looked down at the business card she'd placed on the table. David Russo, attorney at law. Robert Wellington's address in the fancy hills above town. Maybe her mother was right. Maybe this wasn't about charity or obligation. Maybe it was just about 2 people helping each other when they needed it most. She thought about her father, about what he would have said. He probably would have told her the same thing her mother just had. She picked up the card and ran her thumb over the raised lettering. Tomorrow, she decided. Tomorrow she would call and arrange to visit Robert Wellington. She would hear him out, look him in the eye, and then decide what to do. What Lily didn't know yet was that meeting Robert would do more than just solve her immediate problems. It would set in motion a series of events that would transform not just her life, but the entire town of Maplewood. But that night, sitting at her kitchen table with a pile of bills and a business card, she was just a tired waitress trying to make the right choice, and sometimes, that's all any of us can do. Sunday morning arrived with clear skies, which felt almost ironic to Lily. The last time weather had mattered this much, it had been pouring rain. Now the sun was shining as a black town car pulled up in front of her apartment building. Exactly as David had promised. Lily had spent an hour getting ready, changing her outfit 3 times before settling on a simple blue dress her mother insisted made her look presentable. She felt ridiculous getting picked up by a private car to visit a mansion on the hill. This wasn't her life. Her life was coffee stains and sore feet and counting pennies. The driver was a quiet older man who opened the door for her and didn't try to make small talk, which Lily appreciated. She was nervous enough without having to make conversation. As they drove through Maplewood and up into the hills, she watched the houses get bigger and bigger, the lawns more manicured, the gates more imposing. Robert Wellington's estate was at the end of a long, tree-lined driveway. The house was beautiful in an old-fashioned way, all stone and tall windows with gardens that probably required a full-time gardener. Lily felt her courage wavering as the car stopped in front of the main entrance. David was waiting for her, looking less formal than he had at the diner, wearing slacks and a sweater instead of a full suit. He smiled when he saw her. "Lily, thank you so much for coming," he said, helping her out of the car. "Robert's been looking forward to this all week." "I'm still not sure this is a good idea," Lily admitted. "Just hear him out," David said gently. "That's all he asks." He led her inside, through a marble foyer that made her feel like she should take her shoes off, down a hallway lined with old photographs, and finally into a sunlit room that overlooked the gardens. Robert Wellington was sitting in a leather armchair by the window, and he stood up when they entered, his face breaking into a wide smile. "The angel with the umbrella," he said, and his voice was stronger than Lily remembered from that rainy night. "I was afraid you wouldn't come." "Hi, Robert," Lily said, suddenly feeling shy. In the daylight, properly dressed and clearly in his right mind, he looked different. Dignified, regal even, but his eyes were the same, kind and a little sad. "Please sit," Robert said, gesturing to the chair across from him. "Would you like something to drink? Tea, coffee?" "I'm okay, thank you," Lily said, perching on the edge of the chair. David excused himself quietly, leaving them alone. Lily noticed a woman in scrubs standing discreetly in the corner, probably Robert's caregiver, but she seemed content to fade into the background. "I owe you my life," Robert said simply. "David told you what could have happened if you hadn't helped me." "He mentioned it," Lily said, "but I really just walked you to a bus stop. Anyone would have done the same." "But they didn't," Robert said firmly. "I stood in that rain for 20 minutes before you came out of the diner. I watched at least a dozen people walk past me. Some of them looked at me, saw me standing there soaking wet and confused, and they just kept walking. You were the only one who stopped." Lily didn't know what to say to that. The idea that people had just walked past him made her chest hurt. "My wife Helen," Robert continued, his eyes getting that faraway look again. "She always said that kindness was the most important thing. More important than money or success or anything else. She volunteered at the hospital, at the food bank, at the library. She never met a person she didn't want to help." He paused, his voice getting thick. "When you stopped to help me, even though it cost you something, even though you had your own problems, you reminded me so much of her." "I'm sorry you lost her," Lily said softly. "So am I," Robert agreed. "Every single day. But that night in the rain, for the first time in 5 years, I felt like maybe she sent someone to help me." "Maybe she sent you." Lily felt tears prickling at her eyes. She blinked them back hard. "I want to help you," Robert said, leaning forward. "David told you about the medical bills?" "Yes," Lily said. "And I appreciate the offer, I really do. But it's too much. I can't accept that kind of money from you." "Why not?" Robert asked, and he seemed genuinely curious. "Because I didn't help you to get something out of it," Lily tried to explain. "I helped you because you needed help. If I take money for it, it changes what it was. It makes it a transaction instead of just being a decent person." Robert was quiet for a long moment, studying her face. Then he nodded slowly. "I understand that, I do. But let me ask you something. If our positions were reversed and you were the one who wanted to say thank you to someone who had saved your life, would you let them refuse?" Lily opened her mouth, then closed it again. She hadn't thought of it that way. "When you get to be my age," Robert continued, "when you've made all the money you'll ever need, when you've bought all the things you could want, you realize that none of it matters. What matters is the people you help, the lives you touch, the kindness you put out into the world. My wife knew that. I'm still learning it, even now." He stood up slowly and walked to the window, looking out at his beautiful gardens. "I have more money than I could spend in 3 lifetimes. My daughter lives in London, and we talk once a month if I'm lucky. I have no grandchildren. My friends are all gone or too sick to visit. What am I going to do with all this?" He gestured around the room. "Watch it collect dust?" Lily stood up too, moving to stand near him. "I'm sorry you're lonely," she said. "That must be hard." "It is," Robert admitted. "But that night when you gave up your bus and your time and your comfort to help a confused old man, you gave me something more valuable than any of this. You gave me hope that there are still good people in the world. You can't put a price on that. So let me pay off your mother's medical bills," he continued, turning to face her. "Not as payment for what you did, not as a transaction, but as one human being helping another the same way you helped me. Please." Lily felt something crack inside her chest, all the pride and stubbornness she'd been holding on to. She thought about her mother, about the pain she tried to hide, about the treatments they couldn't afford that might give her more good years. She thought about the bills that kept her up at night, the constant stress that felt like a weight on her shoulders. "Just the medical bills," she heard herself say. "Nothing more." Robert's face lit up. "Just the medical bills," he agreed. "And I pay you back," Lily added quickly. "Somehow, someday, I pay you back." "No," Robert said firmly. "This is a gift. You don't pay back gifts." They argued about it for another 10 minutes, but Robert was stubborn in his own way, and eventually Lily ran out of arguments. David came back in and explained the details. Robert's accountant would contact the hospital and the doctor's offices directly. All of Lily's mother's outstanding medical debt would be cleared within the week. "There is one more thing," Robert said as Lily was getting ready to leave. "I know you said you didn't want anything else, but I hope you'll indulge an old man one more request." Lily tensed. "What is it? Would you visit me again?" Robert asked, and there was something vulnerable in his voice. Not for business, not for anything formal. Just to visit. Maybe have tea. Talk about your day. I don't get many visitors, and I enjoyed our conversation. Lily's initial instinct was to say no. She'd gotten what she came for, and continuing to visit felt like it would create some kind of obligation. But then she looked at Robert's face, at the hope in his eyes, and she thought about her own father, about how lonely he'd been in his last months. "Okay," she said. "I can visit sometimes. When I have time," Robert beamed. "That's all I ask." The car ride home felt surreal. Lily kept touching her purse where David had placed copies of all the paperwork, proof that this had really happened. Her mother's medical debt, the number that had been haunting her for months, was just going to disappear. When she got home, her mother was waiting in the living room, pretending to watch TV but clearly anxious for news. "Well?" she asked the moment Lily walked in. Lily sat down next to her and took her hand. "He's a nice man," she said. "Lonely and kind and still missing his wife. And he's going to pay off all your medical bills." Her mother started to cry, which made Lily start to cry, and they sat there on their worn-out couch in their tiny apartment and held each other and let themselves believe that maybe things were going to be okay. Over the next few weeks, Lily watched the miracle unfold in real time. Bills that had been marked past due suddenly showed zero balances. The hospital called to confirm that her mother's account was clear. The specialist's office that had been threatening to send them to collections sent a letter saying the debt was paid in full. It felt like breathing after holding your breath for months. Lily kept her promise to visit Robert. She went on her days off, usually in the afternoons when she didn't have to cover a shift. They would have tea in his sunroom and talk about everything and nothing. He told her stories about his late wife, about building his business from nothing, about his daughter who he wished would call more often. Lily told him about the diner, about the regular customers and their quirks, about her dreams of maybe going back to school someday. It was during one of these visits, about 6 weeks after their first meeting, that Robert brought up something new. "I've been thinking," he said, setting down his teacup, "about what happens after I'm gone." "Don't talk like that," Lily said automatically. "I'm 83 years old with dementia," Robert said with a slight smile. "We should probably talk like that. And I've been working with David on my will, on my legacy. I want to do something meaningful with what I have. Something Helen would have been proud of." He looked at Lily intently. "I want to create a foundation. Something that helps families in Maplewood who are struggling the way you were struggling. Medical bills, education costs, emergency assistance. All the things that can crush a person if they don't have help." Lily felt her heart start to beat faster. "That sounds amazing." "I want to name it after you," Robert said. "The Lily Chen Foundation. Or maybe something with umbrella in it, since that's how this all started. What do you think?" Lily shook her head immediately. "No, I can't have something named after me. I didn't do anything special." "That's exactly why it should be named after you," Robert countered. "Because you think helping people is just normal. That's the spirit I want this foundation to have." They debated it, and eventually compromised on a name that made them both smile. But Lily had no idea that this conversation was the beginning of something much bigger than either of them imagined. She had no idea that Robert's health would start declining faster than anyone expected, or that his final wishes would transform not just her life, but the entire character of Maplewood. For now, she just sipped her tea and listened to Robert's plans, grateful for the friendship they'd found, and trying not to think about the fact that good things never seem to last forever. The news spread through Maplewood like wildfire, the way news always does in small towns. It started innocently enough. Betty mentioned something to one of her regular customers about how proud she was of Lily. That customer told her book club. Someone from the book club worked at the town hall, and suddenly everyone knew about the waitress from Betty's diner who had helped a wealthy man and gotten rewarded for her kindness. At first, Lily didn't notice the change. She went to work, served her tables, visited Robert on her days off, and helped her mother, who was already looking healthier now that she could afford her treatments. Life felt good, better than it had in years. But then things started getting weird. It began with the newspaper. The Maplewood Gazette sent a reporter to the diner, asking if she'd be willing to do an interview about her inspiring story of kindness. Lily refused, feeling uncomfortable with the attention. But that didn't stop them. The next week there was a front-page article anyway. Local waitress's good deed pays off big time. They'd interviewed Betty, some of the regular customers, even tracked down the bus driver who had picked up Robert that night. Lily was mortified. The article made it sound like she'd won the lottery or something, like helping Robert had been some kind of calculated move. It mentioned the medical bills being paid off, speculated about other gifts Robert might have given her. The comment section online was even worse. "Must be nice to get rich just for being decent to someone," one person wrote. "I help people all the time and nobody gives me thousands of dollars," said another. "There's probably more to this story than we're being told," suggested a third with implications that made Lily's skin crawl. But there were positive comments too. People saying she'd restored their faith in humanity. Parents saying they'd use her story to teach their kids about kindness. Those comments somehow made her feel even more uncomfortable. She wasn't a hero or a role model. She was just a person who had helped someone in the rain. The attention at the diner got worse. Some customers looked at her with admiration, asking her to pose for photos. Others seemed resentful, making pointed comments about their tips or how hard they worked without getting any rewards. A few even suggested she should share her good fortune by buying their meals. Jennifer and Rita's behavior changed too. Jennifer, who had always been friendly, started making little comments. "Must be nice not to worry about money anymore," she'd say while counting her tips. "Some of us are still living paycheck to paycheck." Rita was more direct. "So are you even going to keep working here?" she asked one day while they were refilling salt shakers. "Now that you've got your rich friend paying all your bills?" "It's not like that," Lily tried to explain. "He just helped with my mom's medical debt. I still have rent and food and everything else." "Sure," Rita said, but her tone suggested she didn't believe it. Even Betty, who had been supportive from the beginning, seemed different. She was still kind to Lily, but there was a distance now, a carefulness that hadn't been there before, like she wasn't sure how to act around Lily anymore. The worst part was the whispers. Lily would walk into the break room and conversation would stop. She'd catch people looking at her and then quickly looking away. She heard fragments of gossip. "I heard he gave her a car too. My cousin said she's moving into a mansion. Someone told me she's actually his long-lost daughter or something." None of it was true, but the rumors took on a life of their own. Things got even more complicated when word spread about the foundation Robert was planning. The local news picked up the story and suddenly everyone had opinions about it. The town council held a special meeting to discuss whether they should officially recognize Robert's planned philanthropy. Lily didn't attend the meeting, but Betty did, and she filled Lily in on what happened. "It was a mess," Betty said, shaking her head. "Half the room was praising you and Robert, talking about what a wonderful thing this foundation will be for Maplewood, but the other half..." She trailed off. "What did they say?" Lily asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. "Some people think it's not fair," Betty said carefully. "They think if Robert Wellington wants to help the town, he should give money to existing charities or the town directly, not create something new with you involved. They're worried about nepotism or favoritism." "But I'm not even involved in running it," Lily protested. "Robert just wants to name it something about umbrellas or kindness or whatever. I tried to talk him out of even that." "I know, honey," Betty said. "But people talk. You know how it is." Lily did know. She'd lived in Maplewood her whole life. She knew exactly how it was. The scrutiny got so bad that Lily started avoiding places she used to go. The grocery store where people would stare and whisper. The library where the librarian asked too many questions. Even church, where she'd gone every Sunday with her mother, started to feel uncomfortable as people either fawned over her or gave her cold shoulders. Her mother noticed the change in her. "You're not sleeping," she said one night, watching Lily push food around her plate instead of eating. "I'm fine," Lily lied. "No, you're not," her mother said firmly. "This is exactly what your father was always afraid of. He used to say that money changes people, even when it's not your money, even when you didn't ask for it." "I don't know what to do," Lily admitted. I can't make people stop talking about me. I can't control what they think. No, you can't, her mother agreed. But you can control what you do next. You can let this break you, or you can hold your head up and keep being who you've always been. It sounded good in theory. In practice, it was exhausting. Then Robert's health took a turn for the worse. David called Lily one morning, his voice strained. Robert had had a series of small strokes. He was stable, but his dementia had progressed rapidly. He was in and out of lucidity, sometimes not recognizing even his caregiver. Lily visited him in the hospital, and it broke her heart. This man who had been so sharp just weeks ago, planning his foundation and telling stories about his wife, was now confused and frail. Sometimes he knew who she was. Sometimes he called her Helen. "I'm scared," he told her during one of his clear moments. "I'm scared of forgetting everything that mattered." "You won't forget," Lily said, holding his hand. "Even if your mind forgets, your heart remembers. That's what my dad used to say." Robert squeezed her hand weakly. "You're a good person, Lily Chen. Don't let anyone tell you different. Don't let them take that from you." It was the last real conversation they had. After that, Robert slipped further away, lost in the fog of his failing mind. The town's reaction to Robert's decline was predictably complicated. Some people were genuinely sad, especially those who remembered him from before he became reclusive. Others seemed almost vindicated, as if his illness proved something about the dangers of wealth or the unfairness of life. And through it all, the speculation about what would happen to his money continued. Would his daughter come back from London to claim everything? Would the foundation still happen? And what about Lily? Surely she must be in the will, people said. Surely she'd manipulated a sick old man into leaving her money. That last accusation, overheard in the grocery store checkout line, made Lily so angry she left her cart and walked out. She sat in her car in the parking lot and cried, not because the words hurt, but because she was so tired of defending herself against things she hadn't done. Jennifer found her there 20 minutes later. Jennifer's daughter worked at the grocery store and had called her mom when she saw Lily leave upset. "Hey," Jennifer said, sliding into the passenger seat uninvited. "I heard what happened." "I don't want to talk about it," Lily said, wiping her eyes. "I'm sorry," Jennifer said, and she sounded like she meant it. "I'm sorry for how I've been acting. I was jealous and that was wrong. You didn't do anything except be kind to someone who needed help, and you got punished for it by everyone in this town." "I got rewarded for it," Lily corrected. "My mom's medical bills got paid. That's not punishment." "No, but everything after has been," Jennifer said. "All the gossip and judgment and weird behavior, including mine. I'm sorry." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Jennifer said, "For what it's worth, I think what you did was beautiful. I think what Robert wanted to do with the foundation is beautiful. And I think this town is lucky to have you, even if half of them are too stupid or jealous to see it." It was the first time in weeks that anyone had said something like that without wanting anything from her, without it feeling like performance or pity. Lily started crying again, but this time it was from relief. "Thank you," she whispered. "Come on," Jennifer said. "Let's go get your groceries and go back to work. Screw what anyone thinks." That night, Lily got a call from David. Robert had slipped into a coma. The doctors didn't expect him to wake up. It was just a matter of time now. Lily visited him one last time, sitting by his hospital bed and holding his hand. She told him about the gossip, about how hard things had been, about how his simple act of gratitude had somehow turned her life complicated. "But I don't regret it," she said, even though he probably couldn't hear her. "I don't regret helping you that night, and I don't regret becoming your friend. You reminded me that there's still goodness in the world, even when things are hard. So thank you for that." Robert passed away 2 days later, peacefully in his sleep. The funeral was small, just his daughter who flew in from London, David, a few business associates, and Lily. His daughter, a tired-looking woman named Patricia, thanked Lily for being kind to her father in his final months. "He talked about you," Patricia said. "In his lucid moments? He said you reminded him of Mom. That's the highest compliment he could have given anyone." A week after the funeral, David called Lily to his office for the reading of the will. Lily almost didn't go. terrified of what she might find there, terrified of more gossip and speculation. But curiosity and a sense of obligation to Robert finally won out. What she learned in that office would change everything. Again. And this time there would be no hiding from it, no way to downplay it or explain it away. This time the whole town would know, and Lily would have to decide who she was going to be in the face of it all. She sat in the leather chair across from David's desk, her hands folded in her lap, and braced herself for whatever came next. David's office felt smaller than it had the first time Lily had been there. Or maybe it was just that the weight of the moment made everything feel compressed, like the air itself was too heavy. Patricia Wellington was already there when Lily arrived, sitting in one of the leather chairs with a cup of tea that she wasn't drinking. She nodded at Lily, her expression unreadable. A few other people Lily didn't know were present too, business associates of Robert's, all in dark suits and serious expressions. David waited until everyone was settled, then opened a folder on his desk. "Thank you all for coming," he said. Robert Wellington left very specific instructions about how he wanted his estate handled, and I'll do my best to honor his wishes. He started with the business holdings, which went to Patricia, and a trust. The house and most of the property would be sold, with proceeds going to various charities. There were specific gifts to longtime employees and associates. It was all very formal and expected. Then David looked at Lily. Robert also made provisions for the foundation we discussed. He established it 3 weeks before his death, ensuring it would exist regardless of any challenges to the will. Lily's heart started beating faster. "The foundation has been named the Umbrella Foundation," David continued, "dedicated to providing assistance to families in Maplewood facing medical emergencies, educational costs, and financial hardships. Robert has endowed it with $12 million. The number was so big it didn't feel real." Lily heard someone in the room gasp. "And he has named Lily Chen as the foundation's director, with full authority to make decisions about how the funds are distributed, subject to oversight from a board of trustees." The room erupted. Patricia leaned forward in her chair. The business associates started murmuring to each other. Lily felt like she couldn't breathe. "Wait," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "What?" "He wanted you to run it," David said gently. "He believed you understood what it meant to struggle, what it meant to need help. He trusted you to use the money wisely and compassionately." "I'm a waitress," Lily said, panic rising in her chest. "I don't know how to run a foundation. I don't know anything about managing money or nonprofits or any of this. That's why he also established a generous salary for you and a budget for hiring qualified staff," David explained. "You don't have to do it alone. But he wanted you to be the heart of it, the moral compass." Patricia spoke up then. "I'm not contesting this," she said, and her voice was tired but not unkind. "My father was very clear about what he wanted. He tried to explain it to me when I visited last month. He said you saved his life, and now he wanted to help you save others." She managed a small smile. "He also said I had enough money of my own and didn't need his too, which is fair enough." "I can't accept this," Lily said, standing up. "This is too much. This is insane." "You can refuse," David said calmly. "But if you do, the money goes to a national charity organization, and Maplewood gets nothing." Robert was very specific about that. He wanted you to do this, or he wanted the money to go elsewhere. Those were his terms. Lily sat back down heavily. Of course Robert had planned for her refusal. He'd known she would try to say no. "Can I think about it?" she asked. "You have 1 week," David said. "After that, I need an answer." Lily walked out of that office in a daze. $12 million. Director of a foundation. A salary. Staff. She'd gone from worrying about making rent to being responsible for changing people's lives with millions of dollars. It was too much, too fast, too overwhelming. She didn't go home right away. Instead, she drove to the cemetery where her father was buried and sat by his grave, trying to figure out what he would tell her to do. "I'm scared, Dad," she said out loud, not caring if anyone heard her. "I'm scared of messing this up. I'm scared of what people will say. I'm scared that I'm not good enough for this." The wind rustled through the trees, and Lily could almost hear her father's voice in her head. "When did being scared ever stop you from doing what's right?" She thought about Robert, about his loneliness and his desire to do something meaningful with his wealth. She thought about her mother's medical bills, about how that burden being lifted had changed everything for them. She thought about all the other families in Maplewood who were struggling the same way she had been, choosing between medicine and groceries, between rent and heat, between present needs and future hopes. Could she really walk away from the chance to help them? Could she let her fear and the town's gossip stop her from doing something good? That night she talked to her mother. Her mother, who was stronger now, who could walk without getting winded, who was smiling more than she had in years. "What do you think I should do?" Lily asked. Her mother didn't hesitate. "I think you should do what Robert wanted. I think you should honor his gift by using it the way he intended. But what if I fail? What if I mess it up?" "Then you'll learn and do better next time," her mother said simply. "Baby girl, you've been given a chance that most people never get. A chance to really make a difference. Don't throw that away because you're scared." Lily called David the next morning. She didn't need the full week. "I'll do it," she said. "I'll run the foundation." She could hear the smile in David's voice. Robert would be very happy. "Let's meet tomorrow to start discussing the details." The news hit Maplewood like a bomb. Within hours, everyone knew that the waitress from Betty's Diner was now in charge of a $12 million foundation. The reaction was exactly what Lily had feared, and somehow worse. Some people were thrilled. Others were outraged. The newspaper ran another front-page story. The comments online were vicious, accusing her of everything from manipulation to seduction to outright fraud. Someone started a petition demanding an investigation into Robert's mental state when he'd made the will. But there were supporters, too. People who came to the diner to shake her hand and thank her. People who shared their own stories of struggling and expressed hope that the foundation might help them. Parents who said they'd been praying for something like this. Betty pulled Lily aside one afternoon. "I need to tell you something," she said. And Lily braced herself for bad news. "I'm proud of you. Really proud. And I think you should know that the Breakfast Club, you know, all the old guys who come in at 6 every morning, they've been defending you all over town. When people talk trash about you, they shut it down." Lily felt tears spring to her eyes. "Really?" "Really," Betty confirmed. "And Rita apologized to me for how she's been acting. She feels terrible, we all do. We let the gossip get to us and we forgot who you really are." It took 3 months to get everything set up properly. David helped her hire an accountant and a legal advisor. They rented office space in a small building downtown. Nothing fancy but professional enough. Lily spent hours learning about nonprofit management, grant making, and community needs assessment. It was overwhelming and exhausting, and she still worked occasional shifts at the diner because she couldn't quite believe this was real yet. The foundation officially opened its doors on a Tuesday morning in May. They'd decided to start small, accepting applications for assistance and reviewing each case carefully. Lily insisted on reading every application herself, wanting to understand the real people behind the requests. The first family they helped was the Johnsons, whose teenage son needed surgery that insurance wouldn't cover. The second was a single mother who couldn't afford both rent and her daughter's college textbooks. The third was an elderly man whose house needed emergency repairs after a pipe burst. Each time Lily signed the check that would change someone's life, she thought about Robert. About how one act of kindness on a rainy night had led to this moment. About how he'd taken his wealth and turned it into hope for people who needed it most. The gossip didn't stop completely. Some people still whispered that Lily didn't deserve any of this, that she'd somehow tricked a sick old man. But as the foundation started making a real difference in Maplewood, as Famille